This episode is powered by DENmeditation.com, with locations in Los Angeles that normalize meditation and make it available to all. Though meditation is the primary focus, the bigger goal is for people to understand and love themselves, thus creating more harmony in the community at large. To find out more about Den Meditation's teacher training programs, retreats, and all things Den Meditation, go to DENmeditation.com. Welcome to DENtalks, a podcast that features successful people from all walks of life, taking us on their journey of self-discovery. This is Tal, and I'm here with Andrea Bendwald, a phenomenal mom, friend, actress, and also an incredible spiritual leader here at the Den Meditation. She runs our circles, which I promise we'll talk about more in depth today in the episode, but we also chat about her journey from starting as a successful actress and then finding spirituality later. She also talks about how it is to fall off the spiritual wagon and how you can get back on, the law of attraction, and how to stay centered. Also, how can you dig deep in a world that really rewards what's on the surface? She is the perfect person to chat about this, having come from entertainment herself. Andrea reminds all of us to stay open to your path, as you never know what direction your life is going to take. Stay tuned for her personal practice at the end of the podcast, where she's going to guide us through a self-love meditation. Hi, so we're here with Andrea Bendewald, who is the founder of The Art of Circling. And let's just start there. Tell us a little bit, because for some people, they're like, what is The Art of Circling?
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here having this conversation with you.
Nothing makes me happier than chatting with you.
And nothing makes me happier than sharing The Art of Circling with people, because this is a practice that I've been doing for the past 20 years, ever since I moved to Los Angeles, and developing it into a mindfulness practice that now I can share with everybody. The Art of Circling is a group interactive mindfulness practice, and it's very simple. It's people sitting in a circle using some ancient ritual in a very modern day setting. And circles, they empower people to find their authentic voice. They connect people, so that helps them build community. And it really enhances the productivity of any collective. So that is what circling is.
That's amazing. And how did you even start that?
Well, I was
lucky.
lucky.
How did you find it?
How did I find it? I was very lucky. I moved from New York. I landed in Los Angeles amongst a group of women that were just kind of discovering, exploring circling. So we all lived up in Laurel Canyon, up in the Hollywood Hills. Like we were like the original, hills.
OG Laurel Canyon.
Yeah. We were like, and we were all actresses, producers, directors, some executives, and we all lived up on this hill. And I landed right when they were starting to circle. And I fell in love with it, because here I was sitting in a circle with all these amazing women. And I came to LA for acting. So
did you know these women beforehand? Like, were they friends or?
So a couple of them were my best friends. Jennifer Aniston, Meredith Scott Lynn.
And they're all sitting in a circle.
My other friend, Kristen Hahn and Sharon Lawrence and Lee Kilton Smith.
It's also a funny circle.
It's a hilarious circle. Suzanne Buchanan, all these women, we all knew each other from all walks of life. And we sat in a circle, and I was this wide-eyed, kind of scared, even though I was from New York and I was kind of tough. I was in a new land, and I found myself sitting in a circle. And when we passed the talking stick, and everybody just shared where they were at, what their truth was, very simple,
Were you
gentle
nervous?
process. So nervous. My heart's pounding. Here comes the talking
What am I going to say?
What am I going to say?
Ego,
yeah. Right? Ego. And an amazing thing happened. Talking stick comes to me. I start sharing my whatever wants to come through, really, the truth. And I hear a voice that I'd never heard before. And I think it was my authentic self.
Do you remember what you shared that day?
I shared that I was scared, that I felt alone, that I was afraid, that I didn't know if I had made a mistake by moving to LA. It was something like that. It was just kind of like, and
did you even know you were feeling those things?
No.
Interesting.
I hadn't thought to articulate it until the circle, when it just kind of came out. So then what happened? Talking stick goes around. There's no crosstalk in circling. It's a very simple but sacred practice. Whoever has the talking stick has everyone's undivided attention. So you listen in a deeper, more meaningful way. You're not going to interject.
About your response.
Yeah,
right.
You're not going like, oh, hey, that's me too. You sit and you help hold the space for the other person to share. So your ego actually gets a chance to rest, because I'm not sharing with the intention of impressing you and what you're going to think about me. I'm just sharing. So talking stick leaves my hands, goes on to the next woman. They do their share, which has nothing to do with me. But what happened in that very first circle was I realized that I wasn't alone. And that B, all these women that I had some imagination or image that they were so above me or below me, again, ego.
Yeah.
I realized, oh, we're all the same.
I literally just got the chills.
Yeah, we're all the same. And that's where I was like, this is, yeah, I have chills too. Like, this is for me. This is what I want. I want this authenticity of self and also this way of being with other people. And so from that point, that was 20 plus years ago, 22 years ago, I was like, every time there was a circle, I would go to it every time. And then we started circling for, that was a I think the first circle was either like a spring equinox circle. And then the second one was, we did a circle as a going away event for a friend who was moving. And then the next circle was for a full moon. So they started happening on a regular basis. But then we realized that we could use this art of circling for like everyday celebrations and bring deeper meaning and deeper sharing into our daily lives, for birthdays, for bridal showers, for baby blessings, for someone opening up a new business, for someone closing a deal on a house, for like you name
anything, yeah. And so then so you were part of this, just experiencing it yourself. When did the transformation come where you started actually leading them?
Okay, so I thought we should be circling all the time, and
hey guys, where are you?
Yeah, like, where are you? Like, why are we circling? And again, it was like this calling that kept going, oh, I want to do this. And I'm trying to think, the first circle I led, I was probably 30, and I called up my spiritual teacher at the time. Her name was Nanielle Devereaux. And I said, I really want to lead a circle. She said, okay, I think you should. And I said, well, I don't know what I want it to be about. And she goes, well, what are you craving right now in your life? And I said, well, I'm really craving, couples being together and us all sharing what our struggles are. I was newly married and a new homeowner. And I was just looking for like cohesiveness around couplehood. There's no guidebook to how to be married, right? And she said, well, there's your topic. And I said, okay, well, what do I do? What else do I do? And she, even though I had been participating, she was my mentor on how to guide.
Did she do circles?
Yes, she had. So let's go back a little bit. Circling, like when I said in the beginning, it's an ancient practice. It's indigenous to Native American cultures. It goes back to Celtic cultures. It's very goddessy, a goddess tradition. So you find it in all different cultures, and you find it, in prehistoric cultures where the origin of storytelling is the circle. They would sit around the campfire and they would act out, okay, what's the hunt going to be tomorrow? And they would sit in a circle and they would tell the story and they would picture and vision, talk about manifesting. They'd be manifesting how
it's going to go,
how the hunt was going to go. And then they would come back and then they would share the story of how it went. It's like the origin of acting too, which is why I think I'm an actress as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Do you feel that, because it is clearly, I find what's so interesting about circling, which I would love for you to talk about, is it's clearly a very individual experience. As you were saying, you got out of your own ego, you learned, but yet it is also about community and sharing. So how do you think those play together in circling?
So community and sharing. So I've been leading them at the Den since the opening of the Den. And this has been a wonderful experience for me because I've been leading group circles that are not people that have been together. Right. So everybody's kind of an individual. They show up. And my favorite part about leading these type of circles is that people feel more connected and more of a community. And this is a group of people that don't necessarily know each other. And they feel more connected because they've had an experience of just sharing a very simple, either part of their day. So if you break down circling to its bare elements, you're speaking your truth. You're just sharing your heart. And you're also listening with an open heart. That's it. And what a great experience for any community.
Amazing.
And it doesn't matter if you know each other because we're all humans. We all have something in common. So they leave that experience or that circle feeling connected to a group of people that they had no intention of even feeling connected to, more so than in a meditation class or a yoga class where you're just listening to the leader, right? You're just listening to the teacher. This is you're actually part of the teaching because something you share in a circle
guides it.
Yeah, it affects me. So there's another guideline to circling, which is whatever shared in the circle stays in the circle. So that way I have permission to be my highest self or my lowest self, right? And if you share something, let's say, Tal, you're in the circle with me, and you share a real honest truth about parenting or being a business owner, right? That may spark something in me that I didn't even know I felt or was looking forward to or wanted to let go of. It doesn't matter. And that's going to inspire me. And then I'm going to share something. And then there's this ricochet effect, right? So then all of a sudden, there's this wisdom that's coming out of the collective for everyone to source from. So it's not just the facilitator, right, which I love facilitating, obviously, but it's the group. It's the collective wisdom that gets sourced from the group, which is why I really fell in love with it.
I mean, I totally understand that and relate, because for me, when I open up the Den and people would ask me, like, you did a great job with this or that. And I always said, this place is only going to be as good as the people who come here, the people who teach and the people who actually practice, because that's what shapes its character. It's what shapes its vibe. It's what shapes and makes it grow and change. So like, yes, I could put out, like you said, if you're, leading the circle, I can put out the product, but ultimately it gets shaped by whoever's using it, which I always find so fascinating and so much more interesting. So I totally relate to that.
Fascinating. And the market, which is just what people want, is going to dictate what you're serving. Let's say I come into a circle and I want to talk about, this is what's going on with the astrology and the moon and how it's affecting us. And I'll start a prompt about, share what's either the high or the low or anything else that you'd like to share about, just a quick drop-in about what's been going on for you since the last full moon circle. And that's very general. A theme will emerge from the circle that I have nothing to do with.
It's the collective.
I said nothing about, let's say it is, something that's going on in the collective. Could be everybody's feeling edgy, agitated, out of sorts. And there's been a lot of, breakups, or there have been a lot of shakeups. That has nothing to do with my intention for leading the circle, but it will come up, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into that, and then
I think what's so amazing about that, and why it sounds like you've said the circles have been around forever. It's if the facilitator does what they're supposed to do and let it have a life of its own, it's always going to exist. Mm-hmm. It's just you grow with it and you change with it versus thinking it has to be one thing. And then ultimately, because the world changes, you leave it behind. So, I mean, it's so beautiful that you kind of work with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's why there's like no pressure when people go in there. So I think what do you do with the person who probably got dragged there, had no clue what they were showing up for, doesn't like to share, makes them incredibly nervous, and thinks it's a bunch of hokey pokey?
Right. Those are my favorite. And it happens. So I lead private celebration circles all the time. And pretty much every single time the host will say to me, oh, there's this one friend or aunt or so. They're not that into it. And they have this list of worries about them. And I go, don't worry. They'll be fine. And so what I've come up with this art of circling is a way to include everybody, a way to disarm everybody, a way to make it easy for everybody. And one of the guidelines is you don't have to share if you don't want to. So you're off the hook.
Yep.
And as soon as they're let off the hook, they relax.
There is probably something about feeling forced.
And here's the interesting part. 99 out of 100 times, that person that host was worried about is the person that shares the deepest, most insightful, most funny, most beautiful thing in the circle. That it was like, that's why the circle happened.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the way I love to lead circles is that it is inclusive. It's not new agey or woo woo. It's people sitting in a circle, which I don't know, if you went to kindergarten, you probably did.
No, you're right. I mean, it's interesting. You're right. It's what we were always taught to do. Have you ever done a circle not in a circle? I know that seems like a crazy question, but.
So I've done like layered circles where we're kind of spread out, but ideally there is a focal point that is the center. But you can do it in a classroom where we'll build a circle in our minds. And if we can't
actually
put the chair, physically do it, we still have this idea, because the reason you do it in a circle is that it's the equalizer. No one's above, no one's below.
No one's first, no one's last.
No one's first, no one's last. Everyone's facing each other. Everybody can see each other. In and of itself has a power to it. So for some people, that may be the mindfulness practice, is just sitting in a circle facing one another. That may be enough. And listening.
I wish it's one of the questions I was going to ask you. So this is actually a perfect time, is the difference of traditional. I mean, it's kind of obvious now that we've talked about it, but the difference of quote unquote traditional meditation versus this and the similarities. But I think one thing you're bringing up that's so important, which I say all the time here, people come in and get really frustrated sometimes if there was a noise or someone was walking upstairs or it annoys me too, but when someone falls asleep into snoring or, and they get really upset and they want to blame, and you try and say in a kind way, because yes, look, it's a service. You want them to be pleased, but you want to say what you're going to learn in this process, if you're open to it, that is what you need. That is your thing that you are up against. The fact that is bothering you so much is what you need to work on. Not because you're a bad person, just it's
100%.
Clearly being put your way because that's your struggle. For me, it's noise. A snoring for me is literally nails on a chalkboard. And I now know that. And noise, I'm hypersensitive to it, chewing, all of that. So it's funny that you say that if you show up and you are the person that's uncomfortable even being in the circle or sharing, sometimes just sitting through it is your lesson and is your growth that you have to do for the day.
100%. And that's part of the practice. So part of the practice may be looking at what's coming up. So very often in circling, because it's a interactive group mindfulness practice, is that just being seen may bring up a lot for you. And I give everybody permission to just talk about what's coming up for you. And very often people will say, I'm horrible at public speaking. I'm not good at public speaking. I get very nervous at public speaking. And then I say, well, thank goodness this isn't public speaking. And this is a great place to practice bravery of just being yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to recite Shakespeare. I'm not asking you to give me a dissertation on, physics. I'm just asking you to share simply your authentic self, what's coming up. And your authentic self might be, I'm too nervous to share.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing.
I'm very nervous right now.
Yeah. And a lot of people do. And just saying that frees them. And just saying that truth frees the person across the circle from them. because they kind of go like, oh, I thought it was just me because I've been up in my head with this thought for so long. But this person who I perceive to be, I don't know, they look really spiritual and together. They just said exactly what I was thinking.
It's funny because I've noticed that like a few retreats I've been to, and even in the beginning of our teacher training program, there's always one person who like stumbles in the beginning and says, I'm terrified of speaking in front of people, so I can't even believe I'm doing this. And then we'll continue to do so. And you're right, by the end of either the retreat or through the journey of teacher training, they end up like speaking the most and sharing some very profound things. So you're right, they've learned to be comfortable in this bubble.
Right. And that's
just a huge lesson.
And that's what
gift.
I think that's why I fell in love with this practice, is because, so I was an actress. I still am an actress, but I was very comfortable being somebody else. I was not comfortable being Andrea Bendewald. And that's what I really wanted to be more comfortable with. Now I'm more comfortable being Andrea Bendewald than I am being an actress.
Because it feels inauthentic.
Yes. I will still do it, but I wanted so desperately to be comfortable with myself.
So let's talk about you being an actress. So what a lot of people might not know is you were a regular on Suddenly Susan.
Yes.
Very successful.
Yes.
Clearly from the beginning, you hang with a successful group of women. And what I didn't realize until our conversation is a lot of this overlapped. You were circling while you were on Suddenly Susan.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So when did the transformation happen where it became more part of you? Was it cohesive? Was it simultaneous? Was it after?
So I was under the misconception that I had to be one thing. So if I was an actress, I was an actress. I was doing that 100%, and that was my profession. And if I was going to do it, I had to do it full throttle. It was kind of the way I was raised. I went to the High School of Performing Arts, and then I went to theater school at Wright State University, and I got a degree in theater.
This is your life.
So this was my life, and I'd been acting my whole life. And then I was making a living acting. I was acting on
amazing.
Like Musty TV, and, right? Yes. Exactly. So I made it in my mind, but to continue making it, I thought that was all I had to do. And it started to feel the business aspect of it. It was not true for me. I was not very good at it. I couldn't keep up with the race, the grind, the competition. Like I would be, for those of you new to this world, because you come from the television world, so I can speak that language with you, but there would be a pilot season, and I would test for a lot of shows, multiple shows. And I was in the running with amazing women.
And just so people know, testing means you've made it through a really long line to get to the final decision.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. So to test multiple times is exhausting.
Exhausting.
But also incredible.
And it involved the business aspect of it, which was...
you're making a deal every single time you go to test.
And I was testing with remarkable women, and I would not get the job. And my fall was too great. So I wouldn't get the job, and then I would just be devastated. And then I wouldn't get the job.
Doing that multiple times,
and I would be
2 months.
Devastated. And at the same time, though, I had a teepee in my backyard in Beverly Hills, and I'm leading circles in a way that is so fulfilling, in a way that we are having this like heightened, glorious, spiritual experience without drugs or alcohol. I mean, we are achieving higher states of consciousness in my teepee. And I'm thinking they had to be separate. Like I couldn't be an actress and
that's so interesting. So what I find fascinating about that is, when did you start incorporating, and not even just by leading the circles, just by being human, Andrea, when did you start incorporating your spirituality and the way you look at the world in your teepee with also the way you could look at the world in acting, right? Or as a mother or as a wife, or just when did you start incorporating it into you every day, not just as a leader of the circles?
Right. So
because that's interesting.
Yeah, I kept it separate until I didn't, right? Until I felt the calling. So when I first started circling in the teepee, I remember saying in a circle, very small circle of women, we were talking about Ask and It Is Given, the Esther and Jerry Hicks first book, which is all about manifesting and the law of attraction. And I remember whispering in a teepee, I want to share this with other people. right? Cut to, we are sitting here, you and I.
And you're sharing it.
And I'm sharing it, and I'm leading it at the den.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where it started. So that was about, let's say that was like 10, 14 years ago. So from that moment, it's been an integration. So I started meditating on a regular basis 3 years ago. I did Transcendental Meditation training. My husband and I sold our house in Beverly Hills, and I folded up my teepee. And I knew it was time to bring this teepee consciousness to more people. So bringing the idea of what was happening.
So moving it out of your backyard.
Moving it out of my backyard and sharing it with
bringing
more
it to the world.
Yes. And then at the same time, I started leading circles in my children's elementary school.
That's so beautiful.
So it all kind of went like this, like I'm making a big arc with my hand going like a rainbow. It just took this lovely trajectory to where we are right now, which was I had 2 small children. I folded up the teepee and I started leading circles in schools. And then I started leading them out in the world. And at the same time, people were asking me, will you lead my baby blessing circle? Will you lead my this? Will you? So I opened myself up to sharing more, and people started asking me to do it more.
And then did you find that you started walking the walk differently during the day, like every day for you?
Yes, because the teepee consciousness and the art of circling and this whole mindfulness movement that's happening, it really is about just being a better human being.
Yes.
Right? So being mindful wherever you go, whether it's to the grocery store and being mindful that this person behind the counter is a human being who has a life and challenges and a whole existence, just like you, and being mindful of that, being mindful of if there's, garbage that you could pick up and put in a garbage can, you do it, being mindful of, how am I treating my body? What are my thoughts telling me? Do I need to check in with somebody else? Do I need a teacher to help me with a mindfulness practice? So it did kind of permeate my whole way of being. And thankfully, now I'm so happy that I get to use my spiritual practice with my long history with acting. I get to use it at UCLA, where I teach in the professional programs. I teach acting for the camera, and I use the art of circling as the foundation for authentic storytelling.
I was going to ask you about that too, because I love how you didn't necessarily say bye to acting. You incorporated the two, and it just exists differently for you now, which I think is really beautiful, because clearly it's a passion of yours. So talk more about how you teach and how you use the basis, because I think there's so many people out there, I know, especially in Los Angeles, who are creatives and struggle sometimes, whether it be through acting or writing. So how do you incorporate this into that life?
So at UCLA, I use circling to start every class and to end every class. And I use it with actors to get them to be more in touch with their authentic selves and to become better storytellers. It's super simple. If you can't sit there and tell me something truthful about yourself, I doubt I'm going to believe you on camera if you're trying to tell me a truth about someone else's life.
Right.
So they love it. It also brings that class closer together. This is all scientific too. It's not, you get people sitting in a circle, connecting and sharing. Their empathy and their ability to connect instantly deepens.
And it is amazing how many people were not raised with empathy. Not on purpose, but like, it is interesting. I find there's this whole generation now where you're like, I don't think you actually understand the concept of empathy.
That's right. Yeah. And one of my beliefs is that this mindfulness movement is deepening and strengthening and exploding. And it's because of technology. So many children are being raised with their face in a screen. And so they are not building empathy
through actual practice and
pathways, because they're not looking at someone's face
and seeing and understanding.
And they're saying like, oh, this causes joy. This causes sorrow. My words to you, if I called you a name, is going to make you react. They're not seeing facial interaction because they're seeing it on a they're detached.
And they're not experiencing
and they're
it.
not experiencing it. So one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about leading circles in schools is because children by nature are empathetic, and it's to solidify that education when they're young.
Well, you're
and
teaching them how to
teaching it.
listen to someone else and what
Yes.
they're going through.
Yes.
And teaching someone to be okay expressing their feelings. That's two amazing skills for a kid.
Yes. And adults too. Like I'm
Well,
one
it
of
would
my
really help
one
you
of
as
my
an adult if you got it as a kid.
yeah. And we can learn, and we can all of us can, we should all
Improve.
be forever learners, right? So we could keep learning this. So that's why people go, oh, it's so amazing you're doing it with kids. I'm like, no, it's just amazing that that we're all doing it, that we're all learning how. No one teaches the art of listening, if you think about it.
And the art of listening is hard in this, especially in today's society. Everything's moving so fast, and you almost feel like you have to move as fast. You don't take the time sometimes to sit and listen.
Right.
It's interesting. So one thing I always noticed about you from day one of meeting you is you are the person, I assume, because I feel like I do this with you, that people go to. You're like, you attract people who want to sit down and kind of talk about their issues or their problems. Are you like that?
Yes.
Or just for me?
Yes, only you tell.
But have you always been like that? Like, is that something
Yes.
that you always, like,
Yes.
growing up?
Yes, 100%.
And I'm sure
Yes.
now even more so.
Yes.
Is it exhausting?
No, it's an honor, and I feel like it is it is one of my gifts. It's not something I take credit for. I think I came in with it. I think it's part of my whole story, and it's I love asking my students to talk about their superpowers. What's one of your superpowers?
We all have them.
We all have them, and I think it's one of mine. So, and it's my ability to listen. It really is, and it's my ability to absorb information and then kind of see the full picture. And also, as I continue to learn and seek, is to realize how much I don't know.
Right.
And I think people enjoy being around people that aren't pretending that they know everything.
Well, there's a comfort in that. If you're going through something, there's a comfort in the person going through it with you versus just automatically knowing how to fix it from start to finish.
And my father was from Montana, and we would go there every summer, and we were invited and allowed to be part of a Native American naming ceremony. We were visiting a ranch that was right next to an Indian reservation, and this ranch had a very honorable relationship with the Native Americans. And it was the first time I was in a teepee, and I was drawn to the ceremony. I was drawn to the ritual. I was drawn to everything about it. I was 9 or 10.
Wow.
I was 9 or 10. And so that just reminds me, this question you asked me reminds me of that time, which was, I was always drawn to deep practice or deep listening. And I have one friend who you remind me a lot of. Her name is Sherry Sidoti, and she teaches yoga in Martha's Vineyard. She has a school called Fly Yoga. We went to junior high school together. And she was like, Andrea, you were circling with us like in junior high. You would sit us all down if we had a problem, and you would say like, well, let's talk about it. Let's go around the circle and let's like just share what's going on. And she said, you were using circling kind of practices. And I was like, I was? And I have a vague memory of it, but I don't remember calling it
in. That's what old friends are for. It's the best. Like, I love when my friends I've known since 4 will be like, oh no, you were always like that. And they give you very specific instances that you don't remember at all.
You were just telling me a story about like when you you knew what kind of school would be right for you at a very young age.
Oh, right.
You were like, oh no, I know I have to go to this school. That's what I need. That's what I want. Like you had that business mind.
But it's really funny how, off of what you're saying, I love how if people stop for a moment and look back, you can see where things have been dropped in front of you, giving you hints of what direction you're supposed to go to. Like that TP moment for you. That's incredible if you actually think back, because that's a long time ago. It's not like from that point on, you were like, I must be in a TP from that point
Right.
on. It's just later, all of a sudden you find yourself there and you realize, oh yeah, if you believe in more,
right.
it's they, he, she, whatever it is for you, was already giving me some guidance and dropping it in. And that's so amazing. And then to have your friends just kind of give you that confidence too, that you are exactly where you need to be. So tell me some of the fun, like when you came in earlier, we were all joking, and I think you spouted off like 3 pieces of hilarious advice. And I feel like that's exactly who you are. You always have such a good point of view on some of the most basic things. Like earlier, you were even saying like, be nice to the people at Starbucks, whatever. Right. But I think some of the things we were talking about is we were joking about the mooch. So like off the record, like you were saying things. Yeah. Talk about that. Like, I love your basic pieces of advice.
I was saying that there is no off the record. Like everything is for the record. So it's your record. It's being impeccable with your word, basically. And I get wonderful reminders of that all the time. Like I will slip, I will slide, I will forget. I'll think it's funny to be gossipy or snarky, even if it's just with my friends. And then I will get I'll either get a big reminder or a gentle reminder of, no, be impeccable with your word. You know, truth, kindness, love, acceptance, and less ego or no ego. How about no ego? After I read Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, I had one of many spiritual awakenings. Here's what I think happens. You have spiritual awakenings and then you go back to sleep. And then you have another spiritual awakening and then you go back to sleep. And I love the trendy phrase right now is stay woke. Right? Stay woke. So after I read A New Earth, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got it. I get it. I totally get it. I've got it. And I did. I lived mindfully without ego. And I recognized ego wherever I went. I could see where other people were putting themselves above or below. And I refrained from gossip. And I had an incredible, I'd say, I don't know how long it lasted, but year of tranquility, of serenity, of peace, of Zen. I mean, it was amazing. And then I fell off the wagon.
So why do you think people fall off the wagon? Even people like you who are constantly practicing this is what you do for a living. It's who you are. So if even someone like you is falling off the wagon, why do you think people fall off the wagon?
Because we're human beings. And because that's why it's called a spiritual practice. And you got to keep doing it. And you get, and you learn, pick up new practices, and new things are needed at different stages of your life. So I needed that practice in that moment. And now I need another layer of my practice. So now I do Transcendental Meditation. That's a whole new one. And guess what? So I've lived with depression most of my life, clinical depression most of my life. And I've taken medication for it. I've been off medication for it. Now I'm back on medication. It's a very small dose of Lexapro. And it works beautifully. But I still have to stay on top of my mindfulness. When I started doing Transcendental Meditation 3 years ago, I was like, I got it. Figured it out. I have nailed depression. I am a master.
Back on the wagon.
Because I felt an incredible awakening at the beginning. It's like that. The first 6 months, it was like I was walking on water. I really thought I had it. But guess what? My body changed. The environment has changed. I'm getting older. I'm probably perimenopausal. I'm 47, right?
So you must be really hot right now in here.
Yeah, right? So all these things change. So now what do I have to do? Now I have to adjust, learn. So that's why I say you have these growth spurts.
That's such a great piece of advice for people. For anyone who's practicing, when you start to not feel it, remember, keep going, look for something new, know that you're growing. But also for people who might be listening because they're just curious on how to even start, don't be stressed out about the fact that it might feel difficult, because it is finding what works for you, and that might change as you evolve and change. We're all changing constantly. It would be so boring if we figured it out and then you were done.
Right. My brother has this great saying. It says, never give up and know when to throw in the towel.
I totally agree with that.
So like what you're saying, you try something, it might not work for you. So this whole mindfulness movement is so fantastic because there's so much out there for you to try.
Yes.
People go, yeah, I want to try meditation. I really am, but I'm just not good at it. I'm like, you don't have to be good at it. And P.S., there are meditation centers like the Den There are apps that you can try out. You have access to all these masters that have been doing the work in a way that you don't have to go out and like climb a mountaintop and sit under a tree.
They're kind of carrying you up the mountain.
They're
for a while.
carrying you up, and you can actually try things out. So try out, see what works for you, and you'll find it. You will find
There's something for everybody.
And here's my favorite part about meditating is that I had to trick my brain and myself into telling myself that meditating is actually doing something positive for myself. Just like working out, just like eating well.
Healthy. But just like any of those things, we take breaks.
That's right.
You get exhausted from it.
That's right.
So you're right. It is a practice that you just have to keep.
That's right.
Or
you find a different teacher.
Yeah. You start doing like yoga booty ballet instead of Pilates, whatever it is.
Exactly.
But yeah. So what do you feel? How have you brought all this into? You've been married a long time, which is amazing. So I can only imagine there's ups and downs because relationships are difficult. Yes. So how do you bring this practice into your relationship?
That's a good question. So I use circling.
Or do you forget sometimes?
I do. I practice circling in my community with friends and family. So we use circling for every celebration. We do a mini circle around the dinner table at night. We do thorns and roses. We do what was the high point of your day, the low point of your day, and what's your bud? What are you looking forward to? And that's a mini circle. There's great. There's no, interrupting or crosstalk. I heard a new one at my family gathering this weekend. It was sour sauce service. No, sweet sour service. That's what it was. What was your sweet part of your day? What was the sour part of your day? And what was the service part of your day? How were you of service?
I love that.
Game changer.
Huge. Because especially for children.
If you know you're going to talk about that.
You start figuring
it out. And the kids had to think about it at the table. They were like, well, I helped clean up after dinner, or I helped, so-and-so walk up the stairs, if they were near an elder or so.
And then when it's your turn, you're like, yeah, I'm a mom.
So, I'm a mom. Yeah, exactly.
Always in service.
I woke up. That was my
always
service.
In service.
So, yeah, that's where, and I think that has strengthened my community, which has also supported my marriage, and my partnership is circling. Oh, this is a very perfect explanation of, my marriage and circling. When my kids were very small and we were rushing to a birthday party at a new friend's house, and I was out of my mind with, like, come on, we have to go. And did you get the gifts? And did you get that? Like, not Zen at all. had lost my Zen. And we get there, and I literally was like out of my mind about going to this kid's birthday party, all ego. I cared what the mother thought. I cared what they would think of the gift. I cared what we were wearing. I cared if we were late. I cared. And my husband put his hand gently on my back, and he rubbed my back, and he says, keep circling. Because he knew that
you needed to be brought down.
I needed to be reminded of my spiritual center, what was important. He went, oh, I think it was like, oh, honey, just keep circling. Something like that. Like that was his soothing message.
Remember
to
you
me.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this, that the only tattoo I have on my entire body is a circle.
I know. I saw it when we started, and I love it. Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's always meant, because people always say, what does that mean? I know it has to mean something for you because I'm not a tattoo person. And it always meant for me truth and authenticity, and just, this is my North Star. Whenever I'm freaking out or worried that I might be making a decision for the wrong reasons, I can look down on my wrist and I know, no, it's okay. Like, think about you, what's right for you. So I've always loved the art of circling and everything you talk about it, because I always find it fascinating that the circle for me always signified the same thing without knowing it.
Yeah. And that we're all connected only all of the time. You are me. I am you. Your truth is my truth. Your pain is my pain. And I gave I don't know if it was great. I was going to say great, but that's a little too full of myself. That's too much ego.
Go for it.
I had this little moment under a huge tree. One day I was like killing time, and I laid down and I was going to meditate, and I'm just looking up at this tree, and I'm looking at the leaf all the way over here on one side of the tree. And it was this huge oak tree. And then I look all the way over to the other side and there's a leaf all the way over here on the other side. And I was like, those two leaves will never know about each other. And yet they need exactly the same thing. And they source from the same energies.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
Right?
That's another way to look at it. I love that.
They will never know anything about each other. And yet here they are connected through the roots of this tree, through the sunlight, through the water, through everything.
And then from more of an eagle eye advantage, they are one.
They are one.
That's all. That's what one would see.
Right. And that's what the art of circling is to me. It gently reminds us that we're all connected all the time, but then it also like lifts us up. And I also bring in all my, mindfulness and meditation practices, and I bring in anything that's turning me on in life. I bring that to the circle, and then that gives other people permission to kind of share what's turning them on, and then everybody leaves the circle feeling like not only like dropped in, but then also energized.
So speaking of that, what do you feel is like, what's your shit? Like, what's the stuff you still constantly deal with or struggle with? I mean, clearly you've done a lot of work, but like you said, you're always learning and you're always growing. So what do you feel like is the thing that comes up for you the most that you're like, there it is again. I need to like keep an eye on that or work on that.
It all boils down to ego. So it's compare and despair. That still gets me. It's why am I not there like so-and-so? And fear. That's what I have to meditate on. And
it's so interesting because you hear that a lot from a lot of people, but I feel like especially people in entertainment and actors. It's like, it's so interesting that feels to be the struggle for most actors. And you wonder, did that struggle become because of your career, or did it always exist and you're attracted to that career for that reason? It's like the constant reminder to work through it.
Right. Probably both. Probably.
It's a little enhanced.
Yeah. I came in with a childhood happened, and I was, I like to call us carnies, instead of actors, we're like carnies, like nothing stable, right? It's not a great, it's not a stable.
It's not a great ego booster.
Yeah, it's not, but it's my teacher Danielle used to say, it's the hand dealt.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I came in with. It's the life that I was born into, and this is what I have to work with. So I was born a Pisces, and I was born an artist, and I was born a seeker, and I was born a teacher. Like these were all things I felt I came in with.
And it's beautiful because you incorporate all those things into what you're doing. That's
yes.
Like everything you just described is who you are today as well, and how you get to perform every single day. That's incredible. Most people are still trying to figure out how to connect all those dots.
And the reason I started leading circles in this way is because I wanted to empower other people to access all of their talents so that they could live their most, purposeful life. Like that's my mission. That's what I use the art of circling for, is to support and empower people in living their most authentic lives.
Well, that's incredible. And on that, I feel like I'm going to wrap it up from there because I don't think we could get more beautiful for why you do that. But let me ask you a few questions that you can just knock off, and you've answered a few of them already. What's your go-to spiritual book?
I referenced A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, and anything by Marianne Williamson. You and I know her well. I will go back to her books, and I haven't read them all, but pretty close.
There's a lot.
Woman's Worth.
Mm-hmm.
A Woman's Worth. Come on. If you're a chick and you're listening and you haven't read that, stop everything you're doing and Amazon it now.
She's just fierce. Like there's no other way to explain it. She's a fierce energy.
That and Byron Katie, Loving What Is. Anything by Byron Katie. If I'm feeling off track, if I'm feeling like it's unfair like this, I will pick up. I don't have to pick up her book because I've read her books. I will pick up a piece of paper and a pen, and I will do the work. And it's 4 simple questions that she has now built a self-help empire on. And that is these 4 questions that she calls the work.
Did you ever watch that interview on Oprah that got a lot of
Was it on Soul Series or Soul Sundays?
Where basically she was talking about, was it losing her daughter? I don't want to make sure I'm speaking correctly. She lost someone. She lost
maybe
someone
her
close
son.
to her.
Yeah.
Maybe her son. And I feel like Oprah was saying, so you weren't upset? And she's like, no. And she was trying to explain the always being okay and always being happy. And she just kept getting pushed. And you could tell it was like aggravating Oprah because she was just responding like, no, I was okay. And I remember she said something that's always resonated with me because that was my story. And if you change it and you look at it, that was the time I was given with that person and their story ends then. Their chapter ends. And you take it away from being a tragedy and more what is. And once you can put that distance and look at it that way, you feel like you're part of something more beautiful versus letting it destroy you. I actually found it amazing.
Amazing.
A lot of people were just
like, you must
how can you not be
yeah.
sad? You're lying. A lot of people were like, and I never took it as she wasn't saying she's sad. Again, if you can take sad as an emotion, it's just a layer. And it doesn't define who you are. By that equation, you could easily say, I'm okay. It doesn't mean that sadness doesn't pop in.
Right.
I found it fascinating. I recommend people actually just read Byron Katie. It's just,
she's amazing. She's amazing. I was at one workshop with her and her son had just had a motorcycle accident. And so she met him in the hospital and he was on a gurney, like in the ER. And she showed up. She was like, oh my God, isn't this amazing? Like, we're here, we're together. You're in an ER, we're getting help. Like she dropped right into the present moment, which was not the past
not what
moment,
happened before.
Not what had happened.
Right now things are.
But right now, how amazing. Great. And that's been a gift.
It is a gift. I mean, it is really hard to live in the present moment when stuff like that is happening. So she's mastered it.
Yes, she has.
So what about a movie or documentary? Anything that's affected you? It doesn't even have to be spiritual, but it can be.
Right. Well, the movie that pops into mind are just like my top favorite movies. And Dances with Wolves destroyed me when I saw it, from my family history being from Montana, and then also his connection with Native American people that fit my story. That fits my story.
So you have always really been attracted to it.
Yeah, I really have. And let's see, recent documentary. I don't have one. I don't have one right now. And I'm just kind of blanking, so I can't even. But maybe I'll get back to that.
Is there if you could recommend like a teacher or a teacher that's meant a lot to you, who would it be?
You mean a present day teacher that I could recommend to
Either
people?
Way, it could be a teacher through their writings. Nowadays, I mean, so much is accessed online, books, or it could be someone that is local that lives here and that might not be. What for you? It's just anyone that you feel like.
Right. You know who I always, whenever I have to give a gift or whenever I want to like share something in writing, I always go back to Rumi. And if you sit with his writings, they will transform you. So just using that as him as a teacher, one of our greatest teachers, that's who I'm drawn to time and time again.
Well, thank you so much. I could talk to you for another 2 hours.
Well, I'll come back.
Great. Yeah, you better come back. You should all come and try one of the circles here at the Den. Or she's also about to start leading a training of her own. So for people who are actually curious about leading their own circles, look into that as well. And check her out. She has a Facebook page, The Art of Circling, Instagram, The Art of Circling. She's really an amazing woman to check out. So
thank you.
Give it a whirl. And then stay tuned because she's going to do 5 to 10 minutes of leading us in a practice that clearly isn't a circle since we're not together, but at least implement some of, the mindfulness that she practices.
Great.
This is Andrea's personal practice, a self-love meditation.
All right. So everybody just gently close your eyes and nothing for you to do except listen to the sound of my voice. If you do anything, just focus on the sound of my voice as you gently allow yourself to settle into the here and now. And just let yourself focus on your breathing. And as you focus on your breathing and tune within, I just want you to give thanks to yourself just for being here. Just for tuning in to this moment, this mindfulness moment, this podcast. Just give yourself a gentle pat on the back for Good job. Look at you, just doing it, doing something good for yourself, taking this time for yourself. And there's no place to be but right here, right now, with yourself. If you want to, you could also just gently put your hands over your heart, just like a very sweet, loving embrace. Self-love is a term we hear all the time, so let's just have a moment of that, just self-love, loving of self. Thank you, self, for my beating heart, for my breathing lungs, for anything else that you can find to be grateful for. This day, this moment, this year. Gratitude is a great calming device. Just being grateful for your breath can help the chemistry in your brain just to relax. And in this quiet moment, I want to call in some energies to be here with us. And before I do that, I want you to imagine that there is a lotus flower at the top of your crown chakra that is opening up very gently, this beautiful white lotus flower, and it opens up, and out of that lotus flower, sitting right on the top of your head, like a beautiful crown, there's a white light that is shooting up from the top of your crown chakra all the way up into the sky, into the cosmos, into the great beyond. And at the same time that this white light is radiating up, it's also radiating down through your crown chakra, all the way down through all of your chakras, all the way out of your root chakra, and extending all the way down into the floor, all the way down into the ground, and all the way down into this great Mother Earth that we sit upon. So that you're connected above, within, and below, and this energy force is radiating all the way through you. So I want you to use the most incredible, powerful version of your imagination to see this white light extending up, extending all the way down, and all the way down into this great Mother Earth. And now just picture her as this beautiful being that we sit upon, that is the source of everything that we enjoy. And that your energy is connected all the way down into her fiery core, into the center of her being that is very much alive, very much active. And the same with this white light that's extending all the way up into the sky, connecting to that great source beyond, whatever you want to call it, God, creator, unknown, universe. And let this be our meditation right here today, that we are connecting to these incredible forces that are here for us to source from at any given time. And within, they are connecting us to our own being that is beyond any form of miraculous understanding that we can even comprehend, that you are as divine, as powerful, as all-knowing as that great beyond, and as that great Mother Earth that we come from, that we source from. Allowing your breath to breathe you. Allowing that energy to flow through you, that is you. allowing any thoughts that want to come to you. Either listen to what those thoughts may be, or just gently let them float away. And today happens to be a new moon. So for the rest of the day, we're going to allow the universe to give us gentle little gifts. We're going to be on the lookout for little gifts that are here for us to guide us, little signposts along the way that are designed specifically for you and through you, that will say, here it is. Here is a new idea, perfectly designed for you to help you on your way. In fact, right now it's coming in through that white light, that channel. That new idea is coming in. It's coming to you and through you. And you will see it later on today because you are asking for it. You are ready for it. You are listening to this podcast because of it. And you can come back to this imagery anytime you want of this open channel. You can use it in any meditation you want to open you up. And to end our meditation, I'm going to ask you now that you gently close the lotus flower at the top of your crown chakra. Gently close it so that you are fully back in your body, fully back in the earth plane. And gently pull up the energy from the earth, from your root chakra, taking that beautiful energy with you and returning you back, fully present, fully awake. And so it is. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes, come back into the room.
DENtalks is produced by Michael Burke, Mike Burns, Reem Edon, Nicole Rappi, and music by Alex Fetter.